clothing, weapons, utensils, all were reconstructed in perfect detail to match those used in the Civil War era. But the occasion for this gathering was not to prepare for a battle, but to tape a television special called The Soldiers of Gettysburg. And of course, these are not actually Union soldiers, but Civil War reenactors who participated in the taping. Brothers Jack and Pat McSherry originally formed independent Battery Eye, and reenacting the Civil War battles is a very serious hobby for all of these gentlemen. How many people are involved in reenacting in our area?
It's hard to say. Nationwide, they estimate around 10,000, but it's much more than that. There'll be 10,000 at Gettysburg alone. In Pennsylvania, I would say about 2,000.
So this is as close as you can get to the real thing right here?
Yes. This is as close to seeing that. This is why they call it living history, because you can actually see what it was like.
Well, it looks pretty accurate to me, but I'm the untrained eye. How accurate are these outfits and your tents and things?
Everything is exact reproductions. The uniforms are made from the same material as the originals. The tents are made from the same material. Everything must be documented to Civil War period.
What kind of research goes into documenting these things?
Quite a lot. Just in the unit alone, to find out what they had and what equipment they would have carried, let alone trying to find some place where they make the proper uniforms and such.
Let's get down to the detail of your outfit here. I want to hear a few things about this. I mean, the buttons, the cloth. How authentic is this?
That's as authentic as what we can get. Battery Eye was emergency troops formed in June of 1863. This is the closest to the original material we could find. It's a lighter than usual wool, but it's what would have been available. Buttons were the standard generic button at the time. These are not artillery or infantry, they're just generic. The standard blue-covered canteen and tin cup, standard belt buckle with or belt with U.S. belt buckle. It was pretty much the standard uniform of the times.
Yeah, right down to the shoes?
Yes, down the shoes, down the socks, as far down as you can get.
You prepare special food of the times for your outings, is that correct?
Yes, we do.
What kind of food do they have?
Well, we have hardtack, of course, which is a very hard cracker-like substance that they had more or less to subsist on. Coffee, of course, we cook from the 1861 cookbook. We have beef stew, we have chicken, we have whatever is available to us in the field.
Each soldier participating in the reenactment has a specific role to play, such as private, sergeant, captain, medical officer, and so on. And the longer a person is involved in the reenacting, the higher the rank. Well, because of this incredible attention to detailed role-playing, I was a bit surprised to see a bagpiper among the reenactors. Were bagpipes used at all in the Civil War?
Yes, they were. You didn't find them too often, but certain units, the Irish Brigade had a few, and the 79th Highlanders used them also from New York. So, yeah, you would find them. Not only that, but certain individuals with Scottish heritage would just carry them along. They all come apart, and they could just fit in your backpack.
Undoubtedly, the most spectacular event of the day's reenactment was the firing of the cannon, which was built by Battery Eye and is, of course, historically accurate right down to the military procedures used in the firing. How far would the cannonball actually be fired if this were a real cannonball we were using?
Up to maximum range would be at 2 miles, but they couldn't hit anything at that. Much shorter ranges, a couple of 100 yards.
What kind of damage would that do in the actual battle?
Depend what they're firing. If they're firing solid shot, it'll put a neat little hole. But if they're firing something like canister or shell would go out and blow up. A canister would be like a shotgun shell, and this would be as devastating as a machine gun.
Fire!
Although it was easy to get caught up in the fun of the battle reenacting, the purpose of the day's activities was to tape a television special, The Soldiers of Gettysburg, commemorating the battle on its 125th anniversary. This whole idea was conceived, written, produced, and directed by Nelson Sears, whose enthusiasm about the project is what made everything finally come together.
Well, Mary, I've always wanted to do something about the Civil War and the battles of Gettysburg in particular, because I can remember when I was about 5 or 6 years old, my grandfather used to tell me about his pap who fought at Gettysburg. So I've always had a thing about it. But how the basic idea came about, I really can't tell you. It just happened. I read a lot of books, went to the Military History Institute at Carlisle War College. They've been very helpful. The people at the National Park Service, and I can't say enough about the McSherry boys and the men here of the 30th Infantry and Battery I. They have really been super in helping us maintaining authenticity and also carrying the story forward. And, of course, I'm very proud of Jason Brown and Terry Rourke and all the other actors who are playing parts in the show.
Unlike the reenactors, the actors who were starring in the show had originally no more knowledge of the Civil War era than you or I do. So they had to do a little bit of extra research in order to get ready for their roles.
Well, I went to a Landis Valley Farm Museum, and that was a lot of fun, and it taught me what it was like back at Gettysburg and everything, and the war field and everything. And it must have been pretty scary living back then.
Went to Gettysburg to do a little research on it, and I was thoroughly impressed by what really happened there. Living here in the area, you often hear about it, and I remember reading about it in school, but to actually look behind the scenes, so to speak, it's incredible.
What specifically did you come across in your reading up on the battle itself?
Well, just the bloodiness of it, the bloodiest battle ever fought in United States soil. It's more people died in 3 days than during the entire Vietnam conflict. It's incredible. 1 of every 3 people there was killed. 2 hours of cannon volley back and forth. I mean, if you heard that cannon go off, how loud it is, and just to imagine that for 2 solid hours, just hundreds of cannons firing. They said the noise was heard as far as Pittsburgh and Harrisburg. Incredible.
One outstanding individual, Al Carpenter, was not only involved in the technical end of the taping and editing, but he also donned a Confederate uniform to go in front of the camera.
Well, Nelson, in conceiving the show, wanted to show both sides from the soldier's point of view, the line soldier. And so, naturally, if you're going to show both sides, you want to show not only the northern forces, but the southern forces. The part I'm playing is as a rather dejected southern soldier waiting for the next day's battle, and we do a little song. It's actually historically accurate. It's called All My Trials. Hush, little baby, don't you cry. You know your mama was born to die. All my trials, Lord, soon be over.
Do you feel a little bit outnumbered here with about 30 Union soldiers up here and 1 Confederate?
Well, it does get a little itchy when I see all the blue uniforms running around, but I think I'll be all right.
Al's job behind the scenes involved supervising the camera crews to make sure that they were catching all of the action, or staging all of the action, as the case may actually be. When watching the finished product of any television show, what the viewer might not realize is that a scene may be shot and reshot several times so that the cameras can focus on the different parts of the action. This will later be edited together to make all of the action look continuous. And through the miracle of television, 1 measly cannon can be made to look like 170.
At 1 p.m., 170 guns of the Confederate artillery opened up on the Union lines.
In order to bring you right into the action, one of our more daring cameramen placed his camera on a tripod looking right down the barrel of the cannon. Well, even though the cannon was shooting blanks, I can tell you there was a little bit of nervousness in the air when that cannon went off. Fire! We were all pleased to see that the camera did survive in one piece, and that specific shot looked great on tape. Even with the technical concerns and the production deadlines, I think it's safe to say that all people involved in the production left that day with a greater understanding of Civil War history. And on this, the 125th anniversary of the battle, we all found a renewed respect for the soldiers of Gettysburg.
Dixieland.